Okay, in this video, we're going to solve and graph linear inequalities. Before we begin, you should have some experience solving inequalities and graphing inequalities. Here we're just going to put them both together in one lesson. So, we're going to solve for y as usual, but be careful because it's an inequality. Be careful when multiplying or dividing by a negative. Once we're done solving, we're going to graph the inequality as usual. Again, the caution is, remember your rules for solid versus dashed lines, and then also where you're going to shade, shading up or shading down. Let's try a couple examples. Here we have 2x minus 3y is less than or equal to. Now, I noticed on one of the previous videos, this really is it's a funny symbol, but this really is less than or equal to. There's a double bar underneath there. Less than or equal to 12. Anyway, we need to solve this thing first. So we'll have 2x minus 3y is less than or equal to 12. To solve for y, we're going to need to get rid of that 2x by subtracting it from both sides. And we're left with negative 3y on the left is less than or equal to. Now this says 12 minus 2x, but I'm going to be graphing this, so I really want the x term on the left, so I'll write negative 2x plus 12. Again, there's an invisible plus sign in front of the 12. Next line is very important. We're going to have to get rid of the coefficient of y by dividing by negative 3. And we're going to have to divide everything by negative 3. I noticed on somebody else's lesson that when they do this, they put a star next to the inequality symbol to remind them to change it. So the next line is going to have to reflect the changing of the inequality symbol. Negative 3y divided by negative 3 is just y. The inequality symbol has to reverse direction because we just divided by a negative. And negative 2 over a negative 3 is a positive 2/3 x. And we have a negative 4. 12 divided by negative 3. So finally we have our inequality, and it's been solved for y. It's also in y equals mx plus b form. So our y-intercept is negative 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. It's our first dot. Our slope is 2/3, a positive 2/3. So we're going to rise 2 and run 3. Rise 2, run 3. And we can probably go in the left direction. Rise negative 2, run negative 3. Now here's the question. Do we have a solid line through these points or a dashed line? There's an inequality symbol with an equal sign in it. So we're going to use a solid line. Remember, this inequality actually includes equal sign. Y equals 2/3 x minus 4, which means we would be graphing that with a solid line. And now the question is, where do we shade? It says y is greater than 2/3 x minus 4. In other words, y, and here's the y direction, y is bigger than the line we just graphed. So we're going to shade up. And again, you don't need to use a lot of ink, just shade above the graph. And that's it. Let's try another example. This one has parentheses in it, so we'll probably need to do some distributing, or we could divide by 2 in the first step. But you could do it either way. You could distribute or you can divide. I think maybe dividing might be a little bit easier. So why don't we divide first as our first step? 2 times the quantity x minus y is greater than or equal to, and again, it might not show up well in the video, but this actually is a greater than or equal to sign. There's actually a double bar at the bottom there. Doesn't show up well on the laptop. So what we're going to do is we're going to divide both sides by 2. And we have x minus y is greater than or equal to 5/2. We'll convert that when we go to graph. Again, we have to get rid of this x, so we're going to subtract x from both sides. And on my next line, I have a negative y is greater than or equal to, and this is 5/2 minus x, but again, since I'm going to be graphing in slope-intercept form, I want to put that negative x first, and then I'm going to add 5/2. And again, just as we did before, we're going to have to divide to get rid of this coefficient of y. I'm going to divide by a -1. I have to divide everything by -1. And I end up with, and again, sometimes people put a star next to the inequality symbol. So I end up with a y is, okay, see, I almost got caught, is less than or equal to, all right, less than or equal to, and this negative divided by negative is a positive, so this will be positive x. Positive divided by negative is a negative, and I'm not going to write -5/2. -5/2, 2 goes into 5 twice with a remainder of 1. 5/2 is just 2.5. So I'm going to write 2.5 because that's a lot easier to graph on the xy coordinate plane. So again, this inequality is all solved and I'm ready to graph. We'll do this quickly. -2.5 is my y-intercept. 1, 2, 2.5. And my slope is 1, or 1/1. So I can just go up to the right. Rise 1, run 1. And I can also go down to the left. It's a little tricky because I've got a fractional y-intercept. And the question is, do I do a dashed line or a solid line? I'm going to do a solid line because there's an equals to sign here. So I'll put a solid line through these points. And then it says y is less than or equal to. Less than means the y direction goes up and down. Y is less than the line we just graphed. Shade below the line we just graphed. Because y goes up and down, and I want to shade less than the line, which means I shade below the line. And there's the answer.